You know, when most people talk about the dangers of AI, they imagine killer robots, right? Or maybe massive unemployment. But what if I told you they're looking in the completely wrong direction? The real threat, the one that's happening right now, isn't some loud, explosive robot apocalypse. It's silent. It's an invisible wall going up, brick by brick, splitting society in two. And the scariest part? Most of us don't even see it being built.
So let's just cut to the chase. AI is drawing a brand new line in the sand, creating a new class divide. And here's the thing. You're already being placed on one side or the other, whether you realize it or not. So the big question you've got to ask yourself is, which side am I on? Because, and I'm not exaggerating here, your ability to succeed, to make money, hell, even to tell what's real from what's fake, it all hinges on the answer. Stick with me, because we're going to break down exactly how this new divide is being built, and more importantly, how you can make sure you end up on the right side of it.
All right, let's get into it. The first piece of this puzzle you have to grasp is the new world we're all swimming in. There's a name for it, and it's not pretty. AI slop. Think about it. It's that endless fire hose of cheap, machine-generated junk that's just flooding the internet. We're talking soulless articles, weird, uncanny valley images, automated comments everywhere. It's all designed to be churned out for pennies, grab your eyeballs for a second, and make a quick buck on ad revenue. It's basically digital pollution, a toxic sludge covering everything.
And look, this isn't some abstract, far-off problem. This chaos is showing up in ways specifically designed to trick you. We're talking deepfake videos of politicians that look frighteningly real. We're talking automated articles that sound just convincing enough. We're talking about misinformation that's literally engineered to make you angry and get you to share it. So what's the end result? We're now living in a world where just figuring out what's true is becoming exhausting. It's like every single thing you see online, every search, every video, comes with this hidden tax, a tax on your time and your mental energy, forcing you to constantly ask, wait, was this even made by a person?
Okay, so this is where we get to the first big cognitive shift. Most of us see all this chaos and think, wow, this is a mess. Someone needs to fix this. We see it as a bug in the system. But here's the critical insight. It's not a bug. It's a feature. All this AI slop, this flood of garbage, it's not an accident. It's actually creating the perfect environment for a new kind of economy, one where truth itself becomes a luxury good.
So what's happening is that two different internets are forming right before our eyes. Think of it like this. First, there's the public tier. This is the free, ad-supported internet most of us live in. It's run by algorithms that are more than happy to feed you an endless buffet of AI slop. It's all about high volume, low quality. Then there's the elite tier. This one's different. It's behind a paywall. It's subscription-based. The information here is curated by actual humans. It's vetted, it's verified, and it's packed with proprietary intelligence. The first one is like a noisy, polluted public park. The other is a private, members-only country club, and they're drifting further and further apart every single day.
And hey, this isn't just my opinion. Researchers are already putting a name on it. They're calling it an emerging information class divide. This quote here just nails it. The wealthy can literally buy access to verified, clean information. They can buy the tools to tell what's real. Meanwhile, everyone else? We're just left to swim in an ocean of AI-generated garbage and misinformation. It's not just about who has internet access anymore. This is what you call an epistemic divide. It's a gap in our fundamental ability to know what's real.
So if that's what's happening, the really important question is, how, right? How is this wall actually being built? Well, to figure that out, we have to look at the architecture of it all, the hidden blueprints for this new kind of inequality. And what's wild is that these plans, they're not new. They've been around for a long, long time.
So let's rewind a bit, back to 1970. There's this idea called the knowledge gap hypothesis, and it's pretty simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. It basically says that when a flood of new information hits society, people don't absorb it at the same rate. Folks with more education, with a higher socioeconomic status, they soak it up way, way faster. It's like a knowledge-rich, get-richer effect. So when something like the internet, and now AI, comes along and just explodes the amount of available information, that gap between the info haves and the info have-nots, it doesn't get smaller, it gets wider. A lot wider.
But why? Why does this gap get wider? Well, the original researchers found 5 main reasons. First, simple communication skills. Better education means you can read and understand complex stuff better. Second, stored information. Think of it like this. The more you already know, the more mental hooks you have to catch new, related ideas.
Third, social contact. Basically, who you know matters. If your friends are all well-informed, you will be too. Fourth, selective exposure. We naturally pay more attention to things we're already interested in. And fifth, media targeting. A lot of high-quality media is specifically made for, a more educated, affluent audience. Now take those 5 things and realize that AI is pouring jet fuel on every single one of them at the same time.
Okay, now let's slot in the second part of this architecture. It's a classic idea from economics called information asymmetry. It sounds complicated, but it's not. All it means is that in any deal, one person knows more than the other. The classic example, right? Buying a used car. The seller knows every little thing that's wrong with it, every weird noise it makes. You don't. That gap in information isn't just a fun fact, it's a massive imbalance of power. And in that situation, who do you think almost always comes out on top?
And you see this in action every single day where the stakes are the absolute highest. The financial markets. You've got your informed investor, right? They're using super high quality, often private data that's been crunched by powerful systems. They can spot an opportunity before anyone else and jump on it. Then you have the uninformed investor. They're just using public info, stuff that everyone can see. They run into something called adverse selection risk, which is just a fancy way of saying that by the time an investment looks like a sure thing to them, all the smart money has already been made. What happens? It's a straight-up transfer of wealth from the uninformed to the informed. That's not a conspiracy theory. That is just the cold, hard mechanics of how the market works.
Okay, this brings us to the second, and I'd argue the most important upgrade to our thinking in this whole discussion. See, we've been using the word information a lot, but we need to get more precise. We have to update our vocabulary. Because in this new age, the real dividing line isn't about having access to raw information. There's tons of that. It's about having access to intelligence. And what's the difference? Well, information is just raw data. Intelligence, that's data that's been cleaned up, verified, put in the context, and made useful. It's actionable. And in the 21st century, that kind of intelligence, that's the new capital.
And to really get the scale of this change, you have to look at it historically. So back in the Industrial Revolution, the engine of change was steam power, and the most important asset was physical capital, factories. The big divide in society was between the factory owners and the workers. Then came the Information Revolution, driven by computers and the internet. The key asset there was just getting online, having digital access. The divide was between the people who were connected and those who were left out. But now we're entering the intelligence era. The driving force is generative AI, and the single most important strategic asset is high-end, verified intelligence. And the new divide? It's between an information elite and a data underclass.
And this is maybe the most important point of all. This isn't just about the elite reading better newspapers or websites than you. It's way deeper than that. They are using completely different tools to see the world. So while most people are just passively scrolling through that polluted, algorithm-driven feed on their phone, the elite are sitting in front of complex dashboards, literally wielding tools that give them a massive cognitive advantage. Just listen to the language in this quote from someone in the finance world. It says everything. Notice they're not talking about reading the news or checking an article. No, the words are deeper data, managing exposures, constructing portfolios. This is the vocabulary of the elite tier. It's a whole different universe from just casually consuming information. So let's put a name to one of these tools to make it real. Ever heard of BlackRock's Aladdin wealth? Probably not. And that's kind of the point. It's this enormous, powerful technology platform that financial institutions all over the world use to manage trillions of dollars. It's one of the most powerful and invisible forces in global finance. So what does something like Aladdin even do? Well, think of it like a superpower for finance. It sucks in massive amounts of both public and private data into one place. It gives the person using it a single, crystal-clear view of all their financial risks. It can actually run simulations to model what might happen if there's a war, or if the government raises interest rates. I mean, it's a level of analytical power it's not available to you and me. It's basically a crystal ball for looking into the economic future with way more clarity than anyone else. That is the power we're talking about. Okay, so the divide is real, we understand the architecture behind it, and the tools the elite are using are, well, they're insanely powerful. It would be really easy to hear all this and just feel completely overwhelmed, right? But you're not powerless. So the big question becomes, what do you do about it? How do you operate in this new world? This isn't about some fantasy of tearing down the system. This is about building a smart, personal strategy to thrive within it. All right, here's a practical 3-step framework. First step, you have to deliberately curate your information diet.
Think of the free, algorithmic feed as junk food. You have to make a conscious decision to stop eating it. That means actively seeking out high-quality sources, whether that's niche trade publications, academic papers, or yes, even paying for good ad-free journalism. You have to invest, either with your money or your time. Second, build a verification workflow. You have to stop being a passive consumer. You have to question everything. A super simple trick here is called lateral reading. Before you go deep on an article, just open a few new tabs and search for the topic and the author. See whatever people are saying. Your default setting should be, this is probably fake, until you can prove otherwise. And third, invest in your own AI literacy. You don't have to become a coder, but you absolutely need to understand the basics of how this stuff works, what it's good at, what it's bad at, and how to spot the telltale signs of AI-generated content.
Look, the fundamental shift in your mindset has to be this. You can no longer afford to be a passive consumer of information. It's just too dangerous. That free public tier is designed to prey on passive consumers. Your job is to become an active intelligence gatherer. You're not just scrolling anymore. You are on a mission. The goal is to build your own personal intelligence dashboard, to create your own lens to see the world more clearly than the algorithm wants you to.
Let's just pull back for the final thought here. The sociologist Manuel Castells absolutely nailed it when he said this. There is an extraordinary gap between our technological overdevelopment and our social underdevelopment. I mean, think about that. We have built these godlike technologies, but we as a society and as individuals haven't developed the wisdom to manage them. The intelligence divide we've been talking about, it's the biggest, most glaring symptom of that gap.
So I want to leave you with one last question to really think about. In this new intelligence era, where AI can create infinite noise, where truth costs money, and where real intelligence is the new form of capital, what is your most valuable asset? I'll tell you what it's not. It's not your phone. It's not your laptop. It's not your social media profile. It's your own mind, a mind that is critical, discerning, and actively engaged in the world. In the end, that is the only thing that's going to guarantee you stay on the right side of that wall.